Hey yo, um, the difference between Baltimore and DC. Let me start here. Back in the day, DC was. I'm gonna start with the women. One time, I think DC was 7 women to every one man. Yeah. So it was a lot of women in DC. I think it was 7 women to every one man. And back in the like 70s and 80s, DC was known as Chocolate City. Oh yeah. I mean, it was like Chocolate City. A lot of black people there. DC has, well, DC is the capital of the United States. So they got that. That's the capital. Washington. Uh, all the government buildings are there. You got the White House. You got FBI. You got what? Pentagon, which is Northern Virginia, but it's right there in D.C. So you got the Pentagon, FBI. You got the White House. You got what? CIA. All the money comes from D.C. D.C. makes the money, and then you got all the monuments. The Washington Monument is there. DC got a lot of stuff, but DC is more of a white collar town. So, because you got the government, and you got the military, Pentagon. That's the home of the military. That's Pentagon, White House, President. So DC is more of a white collar town than Baltimore. Baltimore is more of a blue collar town. That's a big difference right there. Baltimore is more of a blue collar town. DC is a white collar town. People go to DC, gonna be wearing suits, and women gonna be dressed up good, and a lot of government jobs, and that's why people go to DC. Good jobs in DC. More white collar. You're gonna be behind a computer or Pentagon. You're gonna see a lot of guys in uniform, but DC is more of a white collar town. Baltimore is more of a blue collar town. Okay. Most of the guys in DC think they players. That's a big difference. Of course, you got all the strip clubs there. You got 14th Street. 14th Street used to be the shit back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. That's where all the prostitutes and hookers hung out at. All the nightclubs, you had the Penthouse Club, and I can't remember, but the Penthouse Club was huge. That was a very popular gentleman's club, and they had all the strippers, but all the prostitutes used to hang out on 14th Street. And 14th Street is long. My mom used to live on 14th and U. Okay, but yeah, back in the 70s and 80s, you just went. That was the spot, 14th Street. All the girls, all the hookers, and hung out on 14th Street. Of course, when Clinton was there, when Clinton and Mayor Barry was there, DC was the party town. Cause you had Bill Clinton. I was about to say George Clinton. You had Bill Clinton playing the sax, and he was like the unofficial first black president. Bill Clinton was cool as shit. And you had the mayor, Marion Barry, and they was pimps. They was pimps, man. Remember Bill Clinton? I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Monica Lewinsky. But yeah, man, Barry, goddamn bitch set me up. Remember they spent like $5 million just to prove he was smoking crack. But yeah, and once again, Baltimore is more of a blue collar town. You know, because you got the harbor there, and people in Baltimore more blue collar than the people in DC. I mean, you got people in Baltimore to go to DC because of government jobs. You know, better money. Especially if you get a security clearance, you getting paid just for that clearance. Baltimore, it's more of a blue. You know, you got Dundalk. Baltimore got, and here's the other difference between DC is more black. Well, Baltimore, it has more diversity. You know, you got blacks. You know, you got West Baltimore, you got East Baltimore, but you got blacks, and then you got Italians, you got Little Italy. You know, and you got Dundalk, with mostly white people. It's more diversity in Baltimore, you know, but they got these sections. You know, West Baltimore, East Baltimore, South Baltimore got Cherry Hill, which is black. And like I said, but then you got Little Italy, which is a lot of Italians, and then you got Dundalk, which is more white. DC don't have that. DC's like black. it's getting gentrified now. But DC used to be all, you know, black. That's why it was called, you know, Chocolate City. DC got go-go music, the homegrown, that drum beat. DC got the go-go music. So if you go to DC, if you like go-go, boom, DC got the go-go music. Well, Baltimore is more like Philly and New York. Okay, Baltimore is more into, they like that fast music, but they more, you know, they more like New York a little bit. Or should I say New York? And Philly. And they only, 25 miles apart. But them cities like night and day. Now Baltimore got the block, which is cool. And back in the 70s and 80s, the block was nice. And now it's literally one block. But the block is the red light district. And that's where the strip clubs was. And that's where the prostitutes hang out, at the block. And then you had Crazy John's, the restaurant. Used to stay up all night. You could go to Crazy John's at 3 o'clock in the morning and get you a nice chicken sandwich. And see the prostitutes and stuff at Crazy John's. Yeah, but Baltimore had the block, and it's funny because you had the block and then the police station right beside the block. Yep. You got the strip clubs, hookers, and then you got the police station right beside the block. Which always, but back in the day, man, they had the girls at the block, and you could go for like 25 cents. You could go and put your money in you could go inside some of these buildings, put a quarter in, and the screen would lift up, and it'd be live women there. You know, you pick the phone up, and you could talk to them and tell them what to do, and they do it. You know, I think all that's gone now. But of course, and then you got DC got the Redskins, and Baltimore used to have the Colts. So you had the Baltimore Colts and you had the Washington Redskins. Two different cities, man. You know, had RFK Stadium one time. That's what it used to be, the home of the Redskins. Of course, now they call I don't even know what they call now. They done changed the name so many times. But anyway, the beef started. Here's what started the real beef between Baltimore and DC. When the crack, the drugs was started that. Yeah. Because you had Baltimore, DC. When crack came out like the 80s and 90s, that started the beef. Because you had guys from DC trying to come to Baltimore, come to the Baltimore side, and that's what started that beef. Everybody had to stay on their side. You better, if you from DC, you better not come to Baltimore. You couldn't even come to Baltimore. I made a video earlier about Pioneer City. Check that video out, Pioneer City. But you better not even come to Pioneer City back then. They weren't having it. Yeah. The drugs really started that. And if you was from Baltimore, you better not go to DC. Because one time DC was the murder capital. Yeah. So in the 90s, DC was the murder capital. Of course, now Baltimore became the murder capital. Baltimore, especially West Baltimore. Yeah. I don't think Baltimore's still bad, but DC bad too. You got Southeast DC. And then you got PG County. PG County, which is in Maryland, and it's some nice PG County, probably, and like Largo. That's like the richest black community in the United States. But don't let them nice houses fool you. You go out there, mess around in PG County. They kind of got that DC attitude. But that's what started the beef mostly, was the drugs. Like I said, that's really what kind of started that beef. Was the drug epidemic. That's when all the killing started. Real bad. I mean, one time it was like, that's when they started announcing on the news, 100 people killed this year, 200 people, or this month. That's when it started with the drug epidemic. What else is different? Baltimore got the Inner Harbor, which is real nice. And you can get your seafood. Baltimore is known as a crab. Maryland is known as the crab capital, but Baltimore got the harbor and the bay, and then Washington got the wharf. The wharf. Yeah, you can go there. You can go to the wharf in Washington and get all kind of stuff, crabs and shrimp, and like I said, in Baltimore got the harbor. But you can get crabs in Baltimore or DC. DC got a restaurant called Cameron's, which is seafood. That's like right there on I can't think, Central Avenue. Yeah, Central Avenue is like Cameron's. But they got crabs. They got crabs in both spots. They both got the crabs. You can hit Central Avenue, stay on Central Avenue. Cameron's right there. I mean, you keep going down Central Avenue, and that'll run you into Southeast DC. But yeah, the differences, and that's the difference between Baltimore and DC. Baltimore was more of a blue-collar town. DC more of a white-collar. Guys in DC say Bama. Bama has, and clown. Baltimore be like, what's up, Shawty? Yo, what's up, Shawty? They say Shawty, yo. Yo, they say yo a lot. What's up? Yo. What up, yo? What up, Shawty? Girls are short. What's up, Shawty? And yo, what's up? But yeah, like I say, those are the differences. They both got the nightlife, but like I said, back in the day, 14th Street used to be the spot. But when Bush came into office, the Bush Senior, they was like, we cleaning this place up. So they locked 14th Street down, and everybody went to 13th Street. Just went one street over, and the block is still there, but now the block is like literally a block. It used to be 2 or 3 blocks, but now it's like a block. I haven't been there in a while though, but yeah. In Baltimore, people don't even realize is the home. That's where Babe Ruth is from. Babe Ruth house is still there. It's a row house. A lot of people don't even know that. They be walking right past Babe Ruth's house. It's a row house. Still there. It's like West Baltimore. But yep. And Baltimore has what? They got Planet Rock and I can't remember all the places. But yeah, it is a difference, man. It's a difference. The accent's a little different, you know. But anyway, just be careful with the nightlife. I think Baltimore is more dangerous right now than DC is. Like I tell people, if you ride down, like let's say you ride down North Avenue or something, and you get to a light and you see a bunch of people at the light, you better run that light. Don't stop, cause they be setting you up. DC, yeah, Baltimore, I think is a little more dangerous than DC right now, cause you had The Wire, which is almost like a documentary. That's like one of the best shows ever made. The Wire captured DC at its fullness. Like I said, you had the block, the red light district, and the police station right beside the block. So anyway, I might have left something out, but that's the difference between Baltimore and DC. Two cities, 25 miles apart, like night and day. All right. As far as the women go, the women in Baltimore are a lot more friendlier than the women in DC. Women in DC are a little more snobby. I think they're a little more, how you say, bougie, a little more snobby. Cause you got more money in DC. Like I said, DC you got president and military people, generals. So the women are a lot more snobbier in DC, and they got good jobs. Women in DC making that money. You know, like I said, a lot of women work for the government, so they getting paid. So they're a lot more snobbier in DC than in Baltimore. Baltimore, the women are a lot more down to earth. As far as the men go, the men in DC, like I said, the men in DC, all the guys in DC think they players, and they slick. You know, it's like they slick and they players. But the men in Baltimore, like I said, Baltimore's more of a blue collar town. So I think Baltimore men got a better work ethic than the men in DC. Cause like I say, all the guys in DC think they players, pimps. You know, that was a thing back in the 70s and 80s. You know, you want to be a pimp, you want to use a player. You know, you slick. You ain't trying to work no 9 to 5. You know, you was all about hustling. That's why they got into the drug game, because it's part. You know, it was hustling. Easy money. Or you work for the government, easy money. With Baltimore guys, you know, their work ethic was more blue collar. You know, you either working at the harbor or on the water. So yeah, the guys, like I said, Baltimore is more of a blue collar town, you know, than DC. And Maryland, you know, then you got Maryland. Maryland, more of a blue collar town than DC. So even though a lot of people in Maryland work in DC, and I even know people from Baltimore catch the train in DC. You can catch the MARC train from Baltimore to Union Station. You can catch the MARC train. A lot of people from Baltimore work in DC. catch the MARC train, M-A-R-C, catch the MARC train to Union Station, and you catch the subway, or you can go to the parking ride, and that's the best. And that's something else too. DC got the worst traffic in the country. I'm telling you. You can talk about LA all you want to. DC got the worst effing traffic you ever seen. And don't let it rain. God forbid, don't let it snow. It can take you an hour to go 20 miles. Yeah, DC got the worst traffic. Best way to get around DC, if you got a car, drive your car to a parking ride and catch the subway. Because you drive your car, and here's the other thing. If you're going to drive your car, you better be on the highway before 7:30. Leave early. Because after 7:30, that traffic going to be like, bam! And when you're coming home, you better be on the highway before 3 o'clock. Leave early. Because after 3 o'clock, bam! And I'm talking 295, 395, the Beltway, it all just clamped down. So be on. So if you go, like I say, if you got to, because I knew people that would leave. They say, hey, we working from 6 to 2, and those are like the best hours of work, because you want to be at work before that traffic hit. They get to work at 6 and leave at 2. That's like perfect, because if you're working from like 8 to 4, forget about it. Or 7 to 3, it's gonna be tight. Drive your car to the parking ride, get on the subway. That's the best way, because parking in DC sucks. Trust me. DC got the worst parking. Yeah. So it's better. That's the best way to get around DC. Get on the subway and catch the train. Catch the subway, ride the bus, or walk. That way you don't have to worry about driving. Well, Baltimore traffic ain't nowhere near as bad as DC. They got the light rail. They got buses, but their traffic ain't nowhere near as bad as DC traffic. DC got the worst traffic in the country. DC traffic is worse than New York or California. I heard LA traffic was bad, but
sorry, I don't understand. On the website consumeraffairs.com, they say, Los Angeles, California, ranks #1 for worst traffic overall, based largely on its 8 hours and 27 minutes of average daily congestion, nearly the equivalent of a full workday. With an average one-way driving commute of 33 minutes, Washington DC has the longest travel time to work in the U.S.
So they got LA and Washington. But like I say, yeah, Washington, DC, traffic is bad. So there you go, guys. Like I said, top it off. I just mentioned the women and the men for Baltimore and DC. Peace out.
Sorry, I don't understand. On the website ballotpedia.org, they say, with a violent crime rate of 13.00 per 1,000 residents, DC was ranked by Neighborhood Scout as the 29th most dangerous city in the country. It is safer than cities like Baltimore and Detroit, but more dangerous than cities like Newark and Buffalo. On the website foxbaltimore.com, they say, Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore has been ranked the 3rd most dangerous city in the United States by Numbio's Crime Index. The Crime Index, which is based on crowdsourced perceptions of safety rather than official crime statistics, had users complete surveys on categories like public safety and violent crime.
So Baltimore's #3.
Here is some information from the web that might possibly help. On the website security.org, they say, Memphis once again tops the list, with a violent crime rate nearly 6 times the national figure. Detroit and Baltimore also have rates more than triple the U.S. average. Washington DC ranks 7th among the largest cities for violent crime, though it has decreased in recent years.
It's decreased since Trump been there. I give him that. And I'm kind of shocked that New York is not on the list hardly ever, with it being the biggest city in the U.S. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing for New York. Their crime rate ain't as bad as Baltimore or D.C. or Memphis or Detroit. That's a good thing. Way to go, New York.